1, 2, 3. I've been struggling, baby.
Oh, damn.
Now I've been fighting battles in my mind.
Woo!
Well, I've been up nights worried, and I feel like I'm falling behind, like I'm gonna quit before I reach that finish line. So I know that it must be time. 1, 2, 3. Stop playing the mind games with yourself. No reason to do that. Be okay with yourself wherever you are at. While you're valuing other people's opinions, that won't help you none. Start valuing the opinion within you. Start loving number one. Well, I've been working on my self-love. I've been working on my self-love. I don't need nobody else's love. I've been working on my self-love. Stop being so hard on yourself and listen to your feelings. Make some space for yourself to do all the things you've been needing. While you take yourself so seriously, you think you always gotta be so right. Working so deliriously, keeping yourself up at night. Well, I've been working on my self-love. I've been working on my self-love. I don't need nobody else's love. I've been working on my self-love. Go, Jake! I've been working on my self-love. I've been working on my self-love. I don't need nobody else's love. I've been working on my self-love. We're all trying to be better human beings. Not exactly sure just exactly what that means. Trying to hide behind our insecurities. Well, I've been working on my self-love. I've been working on my self-love. I don't need nobody else's love. I've been working on my self-love. I help myself do some self-love. Oh, I've been working on my self-love. To Joe. Be wise, be brave, be strong and true, and love everyone, including you. Be wise, be brave, be strong and true, and love everyone, including you. I've been working on my self-love. I've been working on my self-love. I don't need nobody else's love. I've been working on my self-love. Be wise, be brave, be strong and true, and love everyone, including you.
Yahoo! Okay, so this month the theme is the art of abundance, and I decided to look up art. Because how many of you have used the word so much that just like it goes invisible and like what am I even? Who cares? Like just throw these words out. Oh, good to have you back, Tim. Tim. Good trip with his honey. Yeah. Anyway, I never mind. I'm going to talk about art. So I looked it up. This is the definition, or a definition that I found. Art is something that is created with imagination and skill, that is beautiful or expresses important ideas or feelings. So if we're talking about the art of abundance, what we're talking about is creating abundance by putting together certain universal principles so that you create a beautiful life, or a life that expresses freedom and the freedom to live fully and to give fully. So the experience of a fuller life, that's the art of abundance. Taking all of these certain principles, there's abundance principles, we've been talking about them. I think we're on our 4th week, we got some more to go. Putting them together through imagination and skill, and have a product. This is my life. I had one of my very first prayer practitioners was a minister, Reverend Lloyd Tupper, and he said, if being, I'm going to say a metaphysician, because at that time we were known as religious science, and I don't want to go back for all of you that are new here, but anyway, what he said, if being a religious scientist was against the law, would there be enough evidence to convict you? Are you, or am I, what he was asking me is, am I applying the principles I've learned in such a way that I'm creating a different life that I would have normally had? Your trajectory was this way, and you've gone this way. There's evidence by using these principles. And so I always try to keep that in mind, because I know, how many of you know a lot? I mean, how many of you've read the books? You know, hopefully you've even read this book, The Art of Abundance. You know, it's like, let's just sell you some books while we're at it. It's Up to You is one of my favorite by Ernest Holmes. The Mental Equivalent is one of my favorite little pamphlets. You can put it with, you know, every time you're waiting in line, you can read some. So anyway, I've got that over with. We've read it all, but to do it all, there's the difference. There's the difference. So I want to share with you 3 more principles today, principles to live by, and it will call forth your imagination and your skill to apply them so that you can create the life that you love. Create the life you love. Principle number 1, what is inside of you is greater than what is outside of you. I'm paraphrasing Emerson. That which is within you is greater than that which you face, that which you are conditioned by, that which you are being hampered by. That which is inside of you is greater than anything outside of you. Now, that makes sense, but man, sometimes, you know, what I've noticed is the conscious mind, they'll go, yeah, I get it. Now, shut up. How many of you have noticed that in yourself? Yeah, stop talking, I've got it, but I'm not going to apply it because, you know, I've got my own ways. So my job is to do everything I can to inspire you and empower you to know what you know, and to do what you know, and to live what you know. So I'm going to tell you a story. And this is actually a true story. It's not a fake story. It's a true story because it happened at Amherst College. It happened quite some years ago. A squash was planted in good soil. When it had grown to the size of a man's head, they, whoever they is, put a band of steel around it with a harness attached to it so that they might discover the lifting power of the squash. Can I just say, who would really care how much a squash would lift? I mean, how many of you have gone to the grocery store and looked at the squashes and said, could you lift very much? I mean, really what you say is, are you ripe and can I eat you? But no. That's not what happened in college, I guess. Anyway, so they, whoever they were, estimated that it might press 500 pounds. Now, how many of you know people that can press 500 pounds? So they're actually expecting more out of a squash than they do a human being.
That's a lot of squash.
That's a lot of pounds. In a month, it reached the pressure of 500 pounds. In 2 months, it reached the pressure of 1,500 pounds, and then 2,000 pounds. And they had to strengthen the bands. It finally reached the pressure of 5,000 pounds when it broke its own rinds. Upon opening the squash, post-mortem for squash. Now, this is true. The researchers were amazed to find a mass of fibers that had developed in an attempt to fight away the obstacles that had hindered its growth. Further investigation revealed that 80,000 feet of roots had grown, going out in all directions to help and strengthen the fibers that it needed to overcome the resistance. So, life was bound to live. And even a squash knows when it shouldn't be squash. I was amazed that came out of my mouth. But really, I'm like, whoa. And resistance, binding, hampering happens. But if the universe can support a squash, why wouldn't it support us? Why wouldn't it support us? See, I believe that I want to move into and live from the consciousness of I'm going to be okay because I have inner resources that will find outer resources. Inner resources that will find outer resources. Just like that squash. Now, what I've been hearing a lot about, and probably you have too, is that we're moving into another recession. Well, I've been around the block a couple of times. I did miss, I'm not that old, the Depression, but I've lived through some recessions. I've lived through some bumps in the financial world. Bumps and potholes. Stuff. And what I found is that which is within me was greater than that which I faced. I'll give you an example. In 2007, my husband and I were looking for a home where we could have our horses so that I could be with them every day because we really loved them. They're pets. They weren't just something to do. And so we looked and looked and looked. And after over a year, we found a piece of property. But I wanted to check with our mortgage broker to see if we could afford this piece of property. In fact, actually, I looked even before that. How much can we afford? Oh, anything. We'll make it work for you. Remember 2007? We'll make it work for you. How much do we have to put down? Oh, 5% would be fine. And I'm thinking, we couldn't even afford that payment. I mean, I'm not stupid, but I'm continually being told anything, just anything. We'll make it work. We'll make it work. That particular bank has gone out of business. Because we got a really weird loan. A really weird loan with, I don't even want to tell you about it, but it was bad. And then in 2008, the property values dropped, and even though we put down 20%, we were underwater. And we needed a new loan, or else it just say we needed a new loan. And I had to come up with a lot of money to put down so that we could get a new loan, because we weren't even going to be loaned to replace what we had at the bank. And do you feel the constriction? Financial times, conditions, me feeling guilty that I didn't listen to my own good sense and signed us up for a loan, because Tim doesn't care. He just signs things. And feeling guilty that we might have put ourselves in financial jeopardy. So the guilt and the circumstances, the fall of the real estate market, interest rates, couldn't even get a new loan. I had to really go within. And the voice went off, pay down the loan. Oh, right, it was a big amount of money. But every month I would put more on it. I would pay the principal, pay on principal, pay on principal. And, I did things that I wouldn't normally do. Like I took a lot of my jewelry and sold it. If you've been married that many times, you have some rings. I wasn't wearing them. My wonderful practitioner class took a collection because I told them this story, and they said, pay this on the loan. So a little here, a little there, a little here, a little there. And then I remembered, I've got a lot of stocks. I hadn't really been paying much attention to it. The stocks weren't doing bad. And on one of my previous faith lifts, I talked about Spirit telling me that I didn't have much. But it said, you've got to invest, and I started investing. And I would invest and shift and invest, and this amount became that amount. And I thought, whoa, I could just sell my stocks. I did. And we paid down that loan. And when we went to close, they did a new appraisal on the property, and I didn't have to pay near as much down. It was like everything went together. And now we have a really nice 3.25% loan. And have for years. And this, it's like if you decide that what's inside of you can overcome what's outside of you, the roots go down and you will find what you need. It will be drawn to you. But I had to do my own stuff. I had to do I can do this and I can do that. And then, I got this stuff I'm not even paying attention to. They're called stocks. This is how it works. This is how it works. Principle number 2. There is a law of compensation that basically says what goes around comes around. The law of compensation you can read more about in Emerson's essays. Or you can just understand that what goes around comes around, and that comes from Werner Erhard, who established EST. Who did EST? Anybody besides me? Oh, that was something, wasn't it? Yeah. When they give you barf bags, you know that you're in for a treat. But he had a point. And I found out recently that he was actually taking this what he had studied in Hinduism and bringing it into the personal growth arena. So we have Emerson, the law of karma, which is Hinduism. What goes around comes around. And basically, both of the law of karma and the law of compensation say that you can change your future by making shifts today. Even if they're small shifts, those shifts can make a difference. Those shifts can change things for you. Today, we're all walking in the garden of our past thoughts and actions. Now, some of us are saying, no, I never thought that, but it doesn't mean you didn't reject that. See, society gives us thoughts. Now, we have to choose them or not choose them. We have to choose. I love it. In the Bible, it says, choose you this day whom you will serve, meaning who are you going to pay attention to? Are you going to pay attention to what you're told or what your heart declares? Every time we have to do that. So there are some things that we do that create a new trajectory. It's all about trajectory. Ernest Holmes talks about that. It's not where you are, it's what's the trajectory of where you're going. See, let's go back to Sandra. Thank you, my dear. I didn't ask her to give more. I just asked that. So that's the way. Nobody would ever want to take a class with me again. No, let's stay away from Kathianne. If she says, Kathianne Lewis, don't answer the call. No. But we had been friends for a long time, and I was talking about something else, and she decided to give, and she decided to give more. Do you see that? She was giving. She was living in the garden of I have very little. I'm not sure I can give. And by deciding to not only give what she thought she could, but to go a little bit more, do you see how she changed the trajectory? So she planted the seeds of, I have more than enough. Those seeds grew up so that she had more than what she had planned on. That's the way it works. It's in Hinduism, it's in Buddhism, it's in Christianity. I'm not sure about Sufism or Judaism. I don't know about those two. But I do know that in those three world religions, there is a law of karma or compensation. And so it's so much bigger than the law of attraction. Man, they dummy down the law of cause and effect when it's all about attraction. Like, I'm just going to picture it. Yeah, but if you don't become the person who naturally would have those things, it will come to you and you're going to lose it anyway. If the studies about the people who have won lotteries in a year, most of the time they're without. I have watched in Oregon, we watched the Klamath Indians get so much money per family. And in a year, the people that were rich were the ones that sold them the cars. Because if you don't have a consciousness of have, you cannot keep. Jesus said it this way in the gospel according to Thomas, those who hath, to them shall be given. To those who hath not, even that shall be taken away. Ooh, that seems nasty, doesn't it? Then you just think, wow, you're very cruel. But what it's saying is, if you don't have the consciousness, you can't keep it. Yeah, you can attract it, but you can't keep it. I used to be, oh God, Kathianne, do you want to tell them this? Okay. These thoughts come and go, and then there's this edit. This is sort of like one of those things that they do on football now, and some shows, there's going to be like a 5-second pause between something, just in case. Well, my head just, but people used to come to me wanting to be with a significant other. And I'd pray, because I just saw God as a great matchmaker, and sure enough, they'd attract somebody. And sure enough, that person didn't stay because I forgot to help them know that they needed to have the consciousness of being with their significant other that is in a satisfying, fulfilling, and supportive relationship that will endure for the rest of their life. See the difference? Having, not just attracting. The law of compensation, or the law of karma. The next principle that we can look at is the principle of what we focus on increases. And the brain is hardwired to look for problems. Hardwired. Studies are out. Physiological studies, sociological studies, psychological studies. We are hardwired to look for problems. Why? Because that's what allowed us to survive as a species. I mean, we don't have a lot of physical skill compared to our environment. We're going to get cold because we don't have a lot of hair. These are not going to kill a lot of things. These teeth, not going to hurt too much. And we can't run fast enough. But we could see a problem and overcome it. It's hardwired. We're also pessimistic, which is why we are surviving. Optimistic people don't have prodigy most of the time. Back in the times when we were living off land, an optimistic person did not survive long. Why? Because they hear a noise and it's probably nothing. It was something. So we look for the difficult. We look for the problems. We look for the issues. Another study said, and this I discovered a long time ago and it hasn't changed because I continue to research it. People sometimes, maybe you have, I have. Why is all the news that we see bad news? Because bad news sells. You know why it sells? Sociologists were just like diving into this, asking questions, doing surveys. What they found is people felt better when they realized someone else was worse off. What? To feel better because you're a tiny bit better off? But it's true. I just read something from a survey for churches, and that it said that ministers, boards of trustees, and even congregants put more attention on who's not in the room than who is in the room. Because that might be a problem. Interesting stuff, isn't it? Well, if what we give our attention to increases, and we're giving our attention to the issues of the world, and we're giving our attention to the problems that we don't know how to overcome, or maybe it's a problem but we have no control over it, then what we will continue to do is to be weighted down by the conditions and the problems. And yes, we are problem solvers, but there is a thing that actually disappears a problem. Disappears a problem in your consciousness. Doesn't mean see, I did have a problem. We were underwater. We had a problem. We needed a new loan. We had a problem. I didn't think we had the money so that we could come up with a way to pay down that previous loan so I could get a new loan. That was a problem. You know what dissolved the problem so that the problem would dissolve? Possibility. Because problems are human mechanisms, possibilities are from the divine. When you entertain a possibility, you are entertaining the ideas of God. Well, Kathianne, remember 10 years ago when I told you to invest? This might be the time when you're going to reap the benefit. Like, really? You see, there's always a possibility. Always a possibility. When you come here, I'm hoping that for at least an hour, you are inundated with the ideas of possibility, whether you hear them or you're just getting them by osmosis. Because what I realize is that the Center for Spiritual Living provides possibility thinking. Not that we're going to tell you what the thought is. Here, think this, it's a possibility. But that there could be a possibility. And then your brain will do the rest. Your spirit will do the rest. The men's group, the recovery group, the young adults group, what we provide for children, what we provide for in the meditations, in all of the small groups, and all the classes are possibility thinking. Not you do this, but just, well, how about another thought? How about a higher thought? And problems If the problem can be dissolved in your mind, it must eventually dissolve in your reality. All we're really doing here is saying God's got a better idea. So let's just take a deep breath. And as a closing prayer, let's do an interactive meditation. But actually it's interactive because I'm going to speak and you're going to respond, but it's also an interactive meditation. I'd love for you to move inside and check out your own consciousness and see where you feel constricted. What area of your life seems tight? Where do you feel like there are chains of circumstances and conditions that are holding you back? And now remember that squash. If life can fight the restrictions on a squash, life can fight the restrictions in our life. So say something like this. Father, Mother, God within, I am willing to be inspired by possibilities of freedom. I'm willing to be inspired by possibilities of expansion. Remind me of my own inner strength and remind me of my infinite divine resources. And lead me step by step from the confines of this seeming human condition. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is.